So one thing I wish more people understood about dissociation is this. It was a brilliant coping skill at the time of the traumatic event. Your mind found a way to survive something overwhelming by partially checking out. That's not a weakness. The problem is what happens later, because a coping skill that was incredibly useful in trauma can become a real liability in adult life. I'm Dr. Nathalie Caldera. I'm a clinical psychologist, and dissociation is one of the trauma responses I care a lot about helping people understand. I spent my entire dissertation writing about dissociation because it gets missed constantly. People think dissociation has to look dramatic. Often it does. Sometimes it looks like being the calm one, the stoic one, the person who appears totally fine while something very not fine is happening. And that gets misunderstood all of the time. So what dissociation actually is, at its core, dissociation is a survival tool. When something is too overwhelming, the mind creates distance, it may numb, it may disconnect, it may make the person feel far away from what is happening. That can be life-saving during a traumatic event. The problem is that the brain does not automatically retire this coping strategy just because life got safer. So later, the same person may still rely on checking out when stress rises, even in places where they actually need to stay present, like work, like relationships, like parenting, like conflict. Now, this can look like going blank in conflict, showing no emotion when something upsetting is happening, spacing out in meetings, staring off and losing track of time, tolerating inappropriate behavior way too long. That last one is important. I see this a lot in workplaces. A manager can sit through yelling, hostility, or a toxic team dynamic and say, "Oh, it's not that bad." Not because they are cruel, because their body learned how to lock down and distance in order to get through stress. But then because they can tolerate it, they assume everyone else can do the same. So they do not step in. They do not protect the team. They let things drag on. And eventually the whole team suffers. People burn out. People leave. Productivity drops. This is how dissociation quietly becomes a liability. Now, dissociation can also look much more ordinary. Someone in a meeting, they are nodding, making eye contact, looking engaged, and then someone says, "So what do you think?" And they realize they caught maybe 40% of what was said. That is often not laziness. It's not carelessness. It is a person whose body learned that when stress rises, mentally stepping away is the safest option. That response made sense at one time. It just may not be helping anymore. And that is where therapy can be incredibly useful, helping people recognize the pattern, understand why it developed, and build updated coping tools that fit your life now. If you're someone who disappears internally and then feels guilty about it later, that is not something to be ashamed of, but it is something to get curious about. You deserve that coping tool when you needed it. You also deserve better tools now. If you'd like support understanding how dissociation is showing up in your life, you can find information about working with my team and booking a complimentary consultation with a licensed therapist in the description below. And if this video was helpful, feel free to share it with someone who has ever said, "I don't know where I go, but I definitely leave."